15 minutes after 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Magandang umaga. Good morning, Manitoba. Listening to us on the radio, on the app, and of course, watching us on CBC television as well. Thanks for making us part of your morning routine. First up, a story of partnership and community coming together to fill a need. The South Osborne Commons show is inviting you to play it forward. It's an event full of live music and fun for the whole family, with the proceeds going to support childcare and community services for South Osborne families. The event is happening next Saturday, and here to tell us all about it is Kristina Hunter, the project coordinator. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Faith. Thanks so much for having me.
Kristina, talk about this event here. What is it about?
Well, it's just so exciting because we have the opportunity to do some fundraising for a community project that's really all about partners coming together to serve the community. It's a church building like many others that is being repurposed to serve the real needs of the South Osborne community. The South Osborne Child Care Coalition recognized needs for childcare in the area, especially infant spaces. We have a very diverse community in South Osborne. We have many young families, and we're also not far from the bus rapid transit line with denser housing and new families moving in and increasing need for housing, and as well as the associated needs that come with that, like childcare, like other health services, and so on. So that's really what the South Osborne Commons is all about. There's a United Church at 525 Beresford Avenue that is going to be repurposed to become a childcare center in partnership with the Riverview Ashland Childcare. They're going to run it, and we've got a community group that has just stepped up to run it, and we're called the South Osborne Commons. And in order to do that, we have to fundraise because we need to renovate this building. And of course, the province pays for part of childcare facilities, but not all of it. And then not all of the rest of the building renovations that we need to do. So hence the fundraiser. And it's an amazing time. We've got Al Simmons coming. So what's better than that for kids of all ages? And he will be featured in the show. He will be running the show. And you know who else has stepped up? Other Juno Award winner, Carrie Latimer of the band Leaf Rapids, Daniel Jordan, longtime Winnipeg talent and connector who is helping organize the event. And in addition, we have some other local talent, and to make it even better, we have a dessert auction. So local businesses have been donating cakes and desserts, and the community is stepping up with cakes and pies and their very best. So you get to put tickets in and try to go home with a cake. So after all the fun, it gets even better. You get to go home with a cake. So if you're the lucky winners. So I think it's a wonderful event. It's very affordable. Children under 12 come in for free. Adults tickets are just $15. For youth, it's $10. So it's really affordable. It's meant to be engaging the community and get people out, have a good time, learn more about the plans for the building. We'll have the architectural plans there and plenty of people to discuss it with. And yeah, so it's quite a fun time.
We just briefly lost you for a moment there, but I think you were ending the point that you were making there. You were talking about how part of this event includes folks learning more about the plan. Where are you in the plan right now? How much money are you trying to raise?
Well, there's a significant amount of money we need, of course. We're just over $1 million is required yet, in addition to what the province will be supporting through the childcare development programs. But, we're well underway. We've engaged an architect and a project manager, and we are just moving full steam ahead. And we're looking at ways to raise the remaining funds. And part of that is the community, of course. And it's not just about raising money, but it's also about raising awareness for the project and engaging more partners and bringing more folks on board with this really important way to repurpose a building in a dense community that needs more support. So it's really exciting that we can evolve our needs around this building and fulfill those needs for the community. So I think it's a wonderful project and something that is going to be just a lot of fun.
When you say well on your way, are you talking about you have 900,000 for the million, or you've just begun kind of thing?
Oh no, we've just started, Faith. This is the very beginning. This is the very beginning of a long journey, but I think we have a lot of supports and a lot of good reasons to move forward. And so, yeah, absolutely. We're at the very, very beginning of the journey for fundraising.
Kristina, thanks for making time this morning.
Thank you, Faith. I appreciate it. I hope everyone goes to Eventbrite to pick up their tickets for Play It Forward.
Kristina Hunter is a resident of South Osborne, also the project coordinator for the event happening next Saturday, November 22nd. Since the spring of 2023, civil war has been devastating parts of Sudan. The United Nations has described the situation as the largest humanitarian crisis in the world. The conflict is between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. And in the middle are millions of civilians. Awad Ibrahim is Provost, Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Excellence, and holder of the Air Canada Professorship on Anti-Racism at the University of Ottawa, also a Sudanese analyst. Awad, welcome to the program.
Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners.
This conflict has entered into its third year. Remind us about the players and why they're fighting.
Every time I hear this number, I'm horrified and it aches my heart. 3 years it has been. Okay, so we need to go back to 2023, to be specific, April 15. This is when the two parties that you just mentioned, the Sudanese army on the one hand, and then there's the rapid support, known as the RSF. They used to be kind of buddy, by the way. So at some point they disagreed and they were fighting for, not fighting, but they wanted the same thing. They wanted wealth and they wanted power. And that's in a very crude way, not only the reasons, but this the part that is fueling the war at the moment. Let me just give your audience a little bit of what are we talking about when we say the worst humanitarian crisis. We're talking about 25 million. Let me say that number one more time. 25 million people who are on the verge of famine. Let me pause. 12 million of internally displaced people. We're talking about 4 and plus million people who are externally displaced. These are refugees in countries around Sudan. These are the numbers that we're talking about, and we actually have it confirmed and declared already by the UN that there are parts of Sudan that already in famine. And I keep reminding not only myself, but your listeners as well. These are not just numbers that we're talking about. These are people, and I know we went through, and I hate the idea of comparing wars, but the images that came through, and I'm just going to give one example in Gaza. If people can multiply that by 10 times more.
Why do you think this is something that isn't being spoken of as readily as other conflicts that we've been seeing in the news?
I have to admit, this has been a mystery to me. I think in part because they were competing wars. And again, I hate the idea of comparing wars, but the Ukraine and Gaza took over the very little oxygen that the newsrooms have. And now we're coming back to Sudan, but I really hope it will be highlighted more. But it has been really a mystery to me why the little attention that it has received. But this is the world we have, not the world we desire. And so let's highlight this, and this is why I appreciate you, and I appreciate all your listeners, and I appreciate the CBC for highlighting the issue one more time.
We just have about 30 seconds here. What do you think it would take for this to end?
In fact, it's not a hope. It's more of it's something that people are working towards. One, we have to work with the Quad, and this is a call to the Canadian government to get involved. The Quad are the U.S., UAE, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. They brought the two parties in Washington D.C. To reach a ceasefire on the one hand, then provide humanitarian services, and then eventually bring the civilian governments. And there is no other option. This is the only way to do it, and this is how it will and should be done. And so I'm calling on the Canadian government to get involved as much as possible, and at best to be around the table with the Quad, at minimum to pressure the two parties, not only to reach a peace, but also make it possible for love to be brought into existence.
Awad, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your time today, and take good care.
Absolute pleasure, and thank you again for highlighting the issue.
Awad Ibrahim is Vice Provost, Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Excellence, and holder of the Air Canada Professorship on Anti-Racism at the University of Ottawa. He is also an expert on Sudan. For the past 21 years, in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, on Edmonton Street, there is an apartment that has quietly become home to refugee and immigrant women from all around the world. They speak different languages, have different cultures, and religions as well. But they have one thing in common. They wouldn't stand a chance without a first safe place to live in our city. It is called the House of Peace. And every year, more than 1,000 people come out for a fundraiser dinner to support the nonprofit organization. Adiam Tesfamariam shared her story about how she arrived at the House of Peace, the impact it's had on her life. Here is part of what she said.
I was born in 1993 in Asmara, the capital city of Eritrea. I grew up in a modest family. My parents worked incredibly hard to raise 4 children. They taught us the values of discipline and perseverance. After high school, like every young Eritrean, I was sent to a remote, terribly hot place to do a mandatory military training and at the same time complete my matriculation exams. Very few students are allowed to go to further studies. Fortunately, I did well and I got a chance to join college. I studied electrical and electronics engineering and graduated in 2017. That is when reality really sunk in and struck me hard. There were no prospects to use my degree and skills in Eritrea. None. Should I try to escape? I made a plan, and my brave brother-in-law risked his life to accompany me. In April 2019, we set out and walked for 4 hours in the dark before crossing the border to Ethiopia. I carried only one small bag of clothes and my phone. I was terrified. I stayed in Ethiopia for 2.5 long and difficult years. In December 2021, my brother, who lives just outside of Winnipeg, was finally able to sponsor me. I stayed with them for 2 months. Immediately, I sent out applications, attended interviews. They always asked me, "Do you have Canadian experience?" And every time I told the truth, "No, I just arrived here." Unfortunately, being honest did not help me. Finally, I got hired. I panicked. My brother lived in Woodlands, and the job was here in Winnipeg. I needed a place to live immediately. Thankfully, the House of Peace offered me the last available room. That day, I was given not only a roof over my head, but I was welcomed to an amazing community. My 2 years at the House of Peace are unforgettable. Women from all over the world live together. I made friends from China, Chad, Korea, Sri Lanka, India, and many other countries. We shared our cultures, meals, and countless stories. We laughed together, yelled and screamed at the Jets hockey games. This past year, I was honored to receive the 2024 Eric and Carol Johnson House of Peace Scholarship Award. This huge gift enabled me to pursue my diploma in cyber and cloud security. 2 months ago, I graduated. I'm searching for a job. Are there any takers? Please hire me. I promise I won't disappoint you.
That was part of a speech from Adiam Tesfamariam, who shared her story at the House of Peace fundraising dinner at the Convention Centre. If you'd like to learn more about the organization, you can visit houseofpeace.ca. And as you've been hearing, the federal government expected to announce the first 5 contenders for its nation-building projects plan. It did that in September. Focused primarily on energy and critical mineral infrastructure. Today, the Prime Minister is set to add 6 more projects to that list. If approved, the projects would be deemed nationally significant and be fast-tracked through bureaucratic red tape. Carney is saying these investments will help reshape the Canadian economy. For more on his perspective, we have reached Pau Pujolas. He is Associate Professor of Economics at McMaster University. Joining us from Hamilton, Ontario. Good morning. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Faye. Thank you for having me.
Is this a major project strategy the kind of plan you would have expected from a banker when he took power?
Well, let's think about that. So what is this project really doing? What is this office of major projects doing? So what we have right now is an economy with too much regulation, too much red tape, too much bureaucracy. And as a result, we have a bunch of projects that apparently are very good and that they should proceed. We are learning recently, but that they have not been able to proceed, that they have been in this regulatory hellscape for many years, and they were not being able to take off. So in that sense, if this office really comes in and helps these projects from happening, that's going to be great news. Now, on the other hand, what we have to do is to think, so why do we have this in the first place? Why do we have to create yet more bureaucracy? Why do we have to create another layer of government to make those projects take off? Clearly, the problem was that we already had too much government in the first place. We had too much bureaucracy, too much red tape. So instead of creating this office, what we should do is remove all the regulation that is clearly bad for the economy. All the regulatory burdens that were preventing all the announced projects in September and all the projects that are going to be announced today. all the regulatory burdens that were preventing these projects from taking off should be dismantled. Let's get rid of them.
Why do you think that's not the approach the Prime Minister and his Liberal government is taking?
That's a great question. One fear that I have, one reason why I do not know that that's what's happening, but it would make sense, is that this is giving a lot of political power to the government. The government is now being able to pick winners. It's not going to be the economic forces. It's not going to be the investors, entrepreneurs, banks, everyone that will have a stake in these projects that is going to decide whether the project happens or not. Instead, this is going to be a bureaucrat in Ottawa that's going to greenlit some projects but not greenlit others. In fact, we have learned of the 5 projects that were announced in September. We will learn about 6 more projects today. But what we are not learning is the projects that are not being greenlit. Which projects are we leaving on the side? Why are we picking some winners and not others? What is the process behind that? If the regulation was good, the projects that would be taking place are the projects that make most economic sense for all the economic agents. Instead, what we have now is that the projects that are going to take place are the projects linked to a lobbyist, a politician, some politic games that are gonna allow these projects to succeed, and that is terrible news.
And so you still have those bureaucracies, though, that you mentioned in the beginning part of our interview. I want to take a step back and think economic strategy. What do we know about whether nation-building projects actually make fiscal sense?
This is the type of question that it makes perfect sense that you ask, but as an economist, I have to say is what gives us bad rep, because I'm going to have to put the head of an economist and tell you that of all the projects that have been deemed nationally important, that have been deemed to be nation building in the world, which there have been many, and they have been defended by various governments and supranational organizations like the World Bank or the IMF, all those projects are always at best boosting economic activity regionally a little bit, which makes sense, but they don't do anything more than that. And more often than not, they are just politically motivated and end up leading to some degree of corruption. So it's not a very good idea in general. Instead, what we should do is to get rid of the bad regulation.
Do you think we'll hear if Churchill is going to be part of this list anytime soon?
Which one, sorry?
Do you think we're going to hear if the Port of Churchill expansion is going to be part of any list anytime soon?
It's a great question. That's exactly the problem. Do we know which projects are being chosen and why? Do we know which projects are not being chosen? Is it that the Port of Churchill really doesn't make sense? We don't know. If that is the case, it would be great for the Prime Minister to come and tell us not only which projects have been chosen, but also which projects have not been chosen and why. It would be great to know. It may be that the Port of Churchill doesn't make economic sense once everyone has been looking at it. But it could also be that it's not in the benefit of the political party in power to boost that construction now. And if that is the case, the fact that we are not building it is really bad news.
Pau, thanks for the time today. Take good care.
Thank you, Faith.
Pau Pujolas is Associate Professor of Economics at McMaster University. He is in Hamilton, Ontario. 15 infants in 12 states in the U.S. have been hospitalized with suspected or confirmed infant botulism. According to the most recent update from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, data showing By Heart Whole Nutrition infant formula might be contaminated. The brand isn't sold in Canada, but parents here are still concerned. Rick Holley, Distinguished Professor Emeritus at the University of Manitoba. His internationally recognized work relates to understanding the risks related to food processing, storage, and handling. Rick joins us now by Zoom. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's first start with what infant botulism is.
Yeah, it's an illness that's brought on by consumption of bacterial spores that germinate in the intestine of the child and form a neurotoxin. And following germination and production of the neurotoxin, the child experiences flaccid paralysis of varying degrees that can be quite serious.
How serious are we talking about here?
Well, for the moment, we haven't seen in this particular outbreak any mortality, but that is always a possibility because the neurotoxin causes respiratory paralysis as well as shutting down the metabolism of the child, leading to the need for respiratory assistance in order to keep the child alive. Normally, when the diagnosis is made, assistance is provided, or can
Right.
be provided.
Right, and assistance in the form of stop consuming the thing and then provide medical assistance, right?
Correct, yes.
When you look at this outbreak, how does it compare to previous outbreaks?
Well, in this case, the outbreak stretches from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States, involving some 10 to 12 different states. Yes, 12 different states. The numbers of children, as you've indicated, is in the vicinity of about 15 that have been hospitalized. But it would seem that there might be as many as 85 to 100 that have been affected. Not all have been hospitalized.
As you describe this, I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty wide swath here. This outbreak, is this something that folks in Canada should be worried about? Do these sorts of recalls ever make their way to Canada?
Well, often they can. In this case, the product is available online, and so it's quite possible that product has been brought into the country. And in that case, folks should be aware of the product name. There's also indications that there has been shortages of infant formula in Canada periodically, and so there's some pressure, I guess, to access product from sources other than in the country. So it's well worth watching. Yes.
For folks who are watching us on YouTube, we're showing photos of the brand name here. It is By Heart Whole Nutrition Infant Formula that might be contaminated. Why are organizations like the media saying they might be contaminated? Why use that kind of language?
Well, the organism is difficult at best to grow. It's an obligate anaerobe. That means that oxygen is actually toxic to it, so it won't grow under normal circumstances that one might use in a laboratory to isolate it from the powder. And the consequence of that is that you have to have a laboratory that has specialized facilities in order to be able to isolate it. And so that difficulty makes it uncertain as to whether or not samples that have actually been examined are in fact negative. And so not infrequently there are false negatives occur during analysis, and so that creates a lot of additional uncertainty.
Rick, thank you for the time today. Take good care.
You're more than welcome.
Rick Holley is a distinguished professor emeritus at the University of Manitoba. His internationally recognized work relates to understanding the risks related to food processing, storage, and handling. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration in the U.S. is saying 15 infants in 12 states have been hospitalized with suspected or confirmed botulism, with data showing By Heart Whole Nutrition Infant Formula may be contaminated. The formula is not sold in Canada, but as Rick mentioned there, because of what seems to be a shortage of baby formula, Canadians may be buying them there as well. So you're asked to be aware of that. The Professional Women's Hockey League is coming to Winnipeg. Yes, they are. The Ottawa Charge taking on the Montreal Victoire at Canada Life Centre on March 2026. You might be wondering why we're talking about this now. It's because pre-sale tickets go on sale later this morning. And our province will be represented by 3 Manitobans on ice. So exciting. Logan Angers is one of them. She's a backup goalie for the Ottawa Charge. Growing up in Winnipeg, she cheered for the Jets, and now Winnipeg will very likely be cheering for you as well. Logan joins us on the line now. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You must be so excited. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I think it's just kind of a surreal moment thinking about how we're going to be able to, play a professional women's hockey game in Winnipeg. It's really awesome.
And you'll get to see your family and friends as well. Have you spoken to them about this?
Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of them about this. You always see at these games, they have 100 people in support, and I think, how do they have that many people? And now that there's a game in Winnipeg, the amount of people reaching out to me, and I'm like, yeah, it adds up quickly. There's so many people wanting to, share that support and love. It's awesome.
Have you had a chance to count how many people might be coming to watch you?
So far, I think I have a group of about 15, a group of 20, and a group of 25. So
it's a lot of people cheering for you.
Yeah.
When you think about hockey, I mean, what role would you say hockey played in your childhood?
Yeah, I think I grew up basically skating as soon as I could walk. So I think hockey has always been a huge part of my life and my family's life. I think it was always, that team sport that I could go play and have fun at, and also compete at.
And you grew up with two brothers, so it was something that the three of you would do together. You started at 5. I also understand that you played softball growing up. We've talked about this before as well. What made you want to do the switch?
I think that both sports I just loved so much, but I knew hockey was kind of where I was going to be able to excel the most. And obviously at that point we didn't know there was a professional women's hockey league, but that all turned out pretty well for me. Being able to make a career out of it has been really awesome.
Do you remember if there were folks you looked up to when you were little?
Yeah, I think when I was little, if we're talking, hockey players, women's hockey players, it was kind of the time of Shannon Sabados for Canada, so she was a goalie that I always looked up to, as well as Kristen Campbell. I think just having another Manitoban goalie, watching her succeed at the college level and then the Olympics was really awesome. And now, I get to work alongside her. And then obviously I watched the Jets when they came back and loved Hellebuck too. So,
well, what was the first thing you said to Kristen Campbell when you first met her?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know.
Must have been quite
not very exciting.
Must have been quite the moment though, because she was someone who you saw and had an impact on you.
For sure. I think when I first met her, it was definitely probably a little bit scary. But now we run a camp together every summer, and so now it's that familiarity, and it's really awesome to work with her.
Logan, talk about what it was like when the Ottawa Charge asked you to join them last year. How was that? How did you receive all of that?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, like I said, we didn't know that this league was ever going to exist, and so finding out that it existed and it was going to be a league that you could build a career off of was awesome. And then finding out that I was going to be able to be a part of it was just incredible. It didn't feel real at first, and then it kind of hits you that I get to be a hockey player for my job.
What was that conversation like with your close friends and family? Did you even have to think about it, or was it okay? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I don't think there was much thought, honestly. I think you get that opportunity, you take it. There's really nowhere else I'd rather be. So being able to get that opportunity, obviously you consult people, see what they think, and everyone's just so excited. And obviously, yes.
You've mentioned that you're a Winnipeg Jets fan. You wore number 37 in university because of Connor Hellebuck. Now you'll be playing on the Winnipeg Jets home ice. Where does all of that land for you? How do you take all of that and make it into something?
Yeah, I think that, the idea of it now is crazy, but I think the first time we even step on the ice for a practice in Winnipeg, it's going to be like, man, yeah, this is where I've grown up watching the NHL, and now I get to be a part of it. And it's going to be really awesome.
Is there a question that I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of folks now. Is there a question you wish they asked you about all of this that no one still has asked you and you want someone to ask so you can say things out loud?
Oh, no, honestly, I don't think so. I feel like we've got all the bases covered here.
Logan, thanks for making time today, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Logan Angers is a backup goalie for the Ottawa Charge. You'll see her at the Canada Life Centre March 22nd for the PWHL's Takeover Series. If you have season tickets to the Manitoba Moose or Jets, you are eligible for the pre-sale today. It starts at 10 a.m. General ticket sales start tomorrow at thepwhl.com/tickets. That's thepwhl.com/tickets. And now more on our special report about sex assault survivors and the justice system. But first, a caution, this may affect those who have experienced sexual violence or know someone affected by it. Next week, a specially appointed federal task force will release the results of their investigation into how the courts treat sex assault cases, and more specifically, the survivors at the heart of them. Yesterday, we heard from some of those survivors. Today, we're going to hear from Manitoba Justice. Renee Lagimodiere and Chantal Boutin are both Crown attorneys who prosecute some of the sex assault cases here. They sat down with the CBC's Donna Carrero to share some of their insights and legal challenges in navigating them.
Tell me about the challenges or what people don't understand about the burden of proof in particularly in these kind of cases.
For a conviction to be entered, the Crown must prove the offense beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's obviously a very high standard. So I think that's an important starting point to understand that the challenges, because it isn't about, do I believe the survivor? Rare is the day that I hear a story of somebody's trauma and they're interacting with what they have carried for years sometimes, or moments sometimes. And I'm not hearing these stories and saying, I don't believe this. But that's unfortunately not the legal test, right? And so I think it's really important for survivors to understand that it's not, if their matter doesn't proceed in the court process or the Crown attorney doesn't believe that it will meet the standard, that isn't because they're simply not believed. It's an examination of a big picture of what evidence will be admissible in the case.
What is it about sex assault cases? Because what you're describing, the burden of proof, every case that you have to examine has to have that, right? What's different about these ones?
With sexual violence cases, these are cases that often happen behind closed doors in private settings, and there's not necessarily other witnesses to the event. So part of the challenge that you have is establishing that standard of proof in light of the other evidence that will be presented, and that might be a different version of events. And of course, the survivor themselves may not know the other evidence that's before the court. We're not allowed, nor is it permissible for us to share the evidence in its totality with any witness.
But assault survivors don't necessarily feel like they're the ones having to prove this happened to me. I was attacked, I was beaten up. Because it's obvious, I guess.
There might be other evidence that we can point to. So the police who attend the scene and right after it happens and see, a phone pulled out of the wall or something like that, that is helpful in assessing the other evidence. We don't often see that in sexual assaults because as we've learned in society, the trauma that comes from being a survivor of sexual assaults plays out differently in each individual, and they will choose to report at different times.
What other challenges do you see when you have cases of this kind?
We ask a lot of survivors through the court process. They have to detail often what has happened. Well, always they have to detail what happened to them in a public setting, in front of a judge, in front of a jury. Part of our task is to make sure that survivors feel ready for that process.
And I think that's a common misconception in society, is that a Crown attorney is the survivor's lawyer, and we're not the survivor's lawyer. We often have the same interests in terms of we believe that there is a reasonable likelihood of conviction. We believe that a sexual assault has happened. We believe we have evidence to put before the court to establish that and to make those arguments.
There was one other thing I wanted to explain as well about the process and when survivors are may be contacted or involved. And part of it is when a survivor goes to the police and they make their report. To them, that's the beginning of this process. And understandably so, they have bared their soul, they've told this story, they're now interacting with what they're carrying. And so for them, that is the beginning of this process. What they may not know is that the police may have to do other forms of investigations. They're collecting evidence that's available in other ways. And the matter itself may not be into the hands of a prosecutor for many months, right? And so in their mind, they're thinking, why hasn't anybody contacted me? And why have I not been told where things are at?
So the definition of consent.
Yes.
Because you both, like immediately when I said the definition of consent, you both like, yes. That's an issue. What is it? What is it that people don't get about that definition?
At the heart of it, one of the things that the Crown has to prove in a sexual assault is that there's a lack of consent, that the complainant did not consent. So what does that mean? Is the complainant able to understand the physical act that they're going to be engaging in? That act is sexual in nature, the specific identity of the individual that they're going to be engaging in that act with, and that they have a choice. And that choice is that they can participate or refuse. And this becomes important. You didn't talk about intoxication, but I suspect that is something that you will talk about.
Do you hear this a lot, that people think because I was drunk, I could not have formed consent?
I think we hear it, yeah. And I think that it's something that is confusing for individuals. There is no place for the idea that because you're intoxicated, you're not credible or you're not believable, right? That shouldn't impact your credibility. But where you might see intoxication becoming relevant is whether or not it affects your reliability. So your ability to accurately remember what happened. And of course, you circle back to that burden of proof and the evidence that we're asking a trier of fact to consider. Is it reliable? What you can establish in terms of what state of intoxication they were in at that time.
If there's one thing that I wish I could say to survivors is that it isn't about not believing. We believe you. That it's just doesn't equate with what is required to satisfy a burden of proof. And that is never a satisfactory answer, for somebody that has experienced intense trauma. Yeah. It just isn't, and I won't pretend it is.
The other issue of it is that survivors have talked about, they were asked, so at any point did you say no? And one survivor put it to me, I don't know if I didn't say no, but I never said yes, and I was terrified.
If a survivor's indicating to me, or in the process of giving their account, that they felt terrified, they felt scared for their life, I don't care whether she said yes if she meant and in her being did not have free will. That doesn't even factor into the equation. She could say yes. I mean, I might say yes if I was in that same position.
Sure, but when it comes to the burden of proof and you have to prove that in court, does that not add an extra layer of challenge?
It could, for sure, it could.
So in what you've described, I'm taken in a car, I can't get out of this car, I'm Indigenous, I'm taken to the perimeter and I don't say yes and I don't say no, but I'm fearful, then the Crown is going to do its best effort to lead that evidence and to argue if there was any consent, it was vitiated because she was afraid. And it can make it really difficult to argue these cases. In a jury trial where you have to give instructions, legal instructions to a jury about how they're going to make these decisions.
When I think about, what would I say to a person a survivor that felt like their voice is not heard, even if their story is not told in a courtroom, their story matters.
Thank you so very much, both of you.
Thank you so much for having us and allowing us to participate in this important conversation.
Those were the voices of Manitoba Crown attorneys Chantal, Boutin, and before that, Renee Lagimodiere, speaking with CBC producer Donna Carrero. As you've been hearing on your CBC Winnipeg News, a man who's admitted to killing 2 women in Winnipeg will soon be given statutory release after serving 2/3 of his 20-year sentence. Sean Lamb pleaded guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter in 2012 for the slayings of Carolyn Sinclair of Matthias Cologne Cree Nation and Lorna Blacksmith of Pimachikamak Cree Nation. Once released, the 66-year-old must live at a halfway house or psychiatric facility for at least 6 months. Lamb was originally charged with 3 counts of second-degree murder for the alleged killing of Tanya Nepinak. Crown prosecutors decided to stay that charge because of what they describe as a lack of evidence. The families of Lorna Blacksmith, Carolyn Sinclair, and Tanya Nepinak, along with Morgan's Warriors, are hosting a rally later today to protest his release. Paige Paupanakis is the sister of Lorna Blacksmith. Jasmine Mann is the daughter of Tanya Nepinak, and both join us in studio. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Good morning.
Paige, how did you find out about this?
I found out about this news. I got a call, and we found out on Facebook.
Well, how did that all land when you discovered this on social media of all places?
My first thought, I didn't know what to think because I didn't expect it. I didn't know that it was coming this soon, and it's too soon. And I think that I still don't know how to feel, but I know that we are going to keep fighting for justice for our people.
You said that it came too soon. Were you expecting something like this? Were you told that something like this might happen?
In 2012, I remember the trial, and I remember hearing that soon one day he would be out. I didn't think that it would only be 12 to 13 years later.
Lamb must be released at this time according to the law. He also must abide by several conditions like living at a halfway house, abstaining from drugs and alcohol, among other things. When you hear about those conditions and when you hear about the law there, what sorts of things come up? What concerns do you have?
In a whole, I just don't think that's acceptable for all women in Manitoba and Winnipeg. I think that the parole office and government need to review what they're gonna be doing and need to think about it again because that does put danger on the streets.
Well, I wonder if you thought about what you think should happen in cases where killers have reached this point in their sentence or people who've been found guilty of these crimes having served their sentences. What do you think should happen?
Killing anyone, I think that you should be put away and get proper help. And as far as killing 3 people, I think that you do need to be put away and to get help. And I think 13 years is not enough, and he hasn't healed in 13 years. I mean, how do you heal about killing 3 people?
How are you feeling right now? Well, in the context of healing?
I feel like my sister just passed away yesterday when I found out the news again. I felt like it just reopened the wound, and I'm just gonna keep on trying to make what's right.
Jasmine, this must be especially difficult for you as well, because in this case, prosecutors stayed the charges related to your mother's death. What message are you hoping to send at today's rally?
I guess just being her voice as well and trying to give her justice. And also just for other women, raising awareness and like letting people know that he's going to be walking around freely, and it's putting a bunch of other women in the community at risk. And yeah, I just feel like everyone should know about it, and he shouldn't be like walking around comfortably, to be honest.
Paige, why do you want people to come to this rally today?
I want people to come to this rally to know that no one is going to walk over First Nations women ever again. I mean, look what happened for the past 2 to 3 years. Search the Landfill was a very big thing. And I just want everyone to know that myself, Jasmine, and Elle have all played a pretty big role in helping with that. And I think that we can do it all over again, and especially for my sister and Jasmine's mom and Caroline Sinclair.
Mm-hmm.
Jasmine, what do you hope people think about as they listen to our conversation?
I want them to remember my mom. I obviously, now that he's going to be out in the public, I want, her name to be out there, and for him to hear this too, honestly. Like, yeah, I just want her name to be out there.
Thank you both for coming in to talk about this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Paige Paupanakis is the sister of Lorna Blacksmith, Jasmine Mann, the daughter of Tanya Nepinak. You can read more about this on our website with details of what happened at cbc.ca/Manitoba. And if you are affected by the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and 2S LGBTQ plus folks and need immediate emotional assistance, there is help. The national hotline is 1-844-413-6649, 1-844-413-6649. Yesterday was the first day on the job for the new provincial seniors advocate. Leigh Anne Caron stepping into the role to represent and advocate on behalf of seniors in Manitoba. She'll be required to make reports and recommendations to the legislature in a public manner. Now, it is the first independent advocate for seniors the province has seen. I spoke with her yesterday on Up to Speed about how she feels as she starts her brand new job.
I'm feeling good, feeling very positive and hopeful as I look forward to having staff eventually in the office and processes for being able to accept people's concerns and submissions to the office. But being first day, none of that is built yet. So I'm just figuring out what I need to move forward to build that staff in the office.
It seems like everything is going to be new. But this isn't new for you because you got your start in seniors advocacy as a teen in Alberta. What do you remember about that work in that very rural Alberta long-term care home?
Yeah, I don't have great memories of a lot of things, but I have very good memories of working there for 2 summers. And yeah, I just remember working closely with the senior. Like, I was an activity worker, so I got to do exercises with them and take them on walks and do fun things like gardening. But also in those times of doing activities, the seniors learned that there was issues when they go for walks because I couldn't get their wheelchairs over the sidewalks, and never really thought about that before working with them. So did things like wrote letters to town council, and tried to make as much as they wanted to, but they very, a lot of them wanted to be out in the community because they were pillars of their community at one time. So did things like had them in the annual parade and got them involved in other activities in the town that they weren't necessarily involved in before. So.
Right. You spoke about breaking rules in today's Winnipeg Free Press piece. What rules were you talking about?
I don't know if they were formal rules or just guidelines. Like when I would take them for a walk, I was told to not take them by their old homes because it would be upsetting, or I don't know. But, once I was out for walks, it was pretty hard for me to not, take them where they wanted to go if they were able to tell me. So we would go by their old homes and spend some time just talking and reminiscing. And so that was kind of breaking those rules or guidelines about, I don't know. It could have been protectionist, or I don't know what it was. But
there was something. There was something about those rules that you didn't accept the premise of.
Yeah, I think it was just really spending time listening to what the folks I was working with wanted, and it wasn't a rule that really held up. And so being able to just be with them and spend time on a walk and talk about where they used to live brought them joy, and also trickled down to, family members who would come and visit them and then be able to hear about their experience of going to their old, it seems pretty simple now, of just going to your old home, but it was a big deal at the time and for them. So yeah, it didn't hold up for me of just something pretty simple that we could do.
Well, have you thought about how you intend to use those years of lived experience in the work that you do now?
Well, I think a really big piece of it is being open to listening. And for me, I want to have good processes in place so that it isn't just listening and not doing anything with it, that we have a way to listen and then figure out how to move forward on some of the concerns people are bringing forward, or even best practices that people are bringing forward, so that we can look at it sort of like a whole Manitoba approach for seniors and see what change needs to happen.
One of those concerns includes something from a coalition of seniors groups, which has called for more adequate housing options. Is that something that's on your radar as well?
It is. I've only had one call so far. Somebody got my cell phone number and called me today, and it was about housing. So we had a conversation, and like I said, I don't have processes yet for being able to respond, but just even putting contact information in a spreadsheet and as a follow-up for later. So I know housing is a big concern. So yes, I share that, and we'll dig into that some more too, because I think there's a lot to uncover there. We have a big province geographically. It's not just within Winnipeg that the Seniors Advocate will be looking at. So I'm interested to learn what those housing issues are throughout the province.
Leigh Anne Caron is the new provincial seniors advocate, the province's first independent advocate for seniors. Leigh Anne, you have a framework you have to work in. Are your legal powers enough for you to be able to do what you want to do?
Sorry, legal powers I don't know about legal powers. That's my, what I'm mandated to do is laid out in the Act. And I think once the team is built, we'll be able to have what we need to do that work. So I'm not concerned about that. It's just around building it up in a way that is that does the job that we need to do. And I don't want to wait too long, but I also don't want to go too fast. So kind of striking that balance is important.
Why do you think Manitobans should care about the work that you and your office will be doing?
Well, I think they already do care. There's been a lot of work that has been done around advocating for seniors prior to this position. And I think having somebody in a position that can make recommendations and has a little more power is going to help amplify those voices that have already been present here. So I think it's important because it complements the work that's already being done and can bring it forward a little more.
I really look forward to speaking with you when it's not your day one and you've had a chance to figure out those processes that you described. Leigh Anne, thank you for the time today, and take good care.
Yeah, thank you.
Leigh Anne Caron, the new provincial seniors advocate. She is the first independent advocate for seniors in our province. She was speaking on Up to Speed yesterday.